one thing I share in common with everybody listening to us right now is the fact that we have all basically received the same type of education. We have all received the same versions of history. When we're raised in these different institutions of learning and higher learning, we are presented with the same data sets. We're given the same basic scenarios as to what happened. Today, we're basically asked to take on faith the conclusions of those who have come before us. We're not taught to think. We're not taught to be free thinkers. We're not taught to go back to original sources, to look at source materials, to assess different matters at hand. We're not. We are trained to either believe the paradigm or basically be booted out of any position that would that someone with blind belief would be able to enjoy. And what I mean is, if you're an anthropologist, you must accept uniformitarianism. Uniformitarian means you have to believe in natural selection, in evolution, despite all the anomalies, despite all the lack of transitional forms, despite the fossil records showing completely the opposite, despite the technologically advanced artifacts that we have been found and suppressed, that have been found, parts all over the world. We have found technologically advanced city infrastructures all around the world, and yet we are steady brainwashed into believing that we started as simplified Neanderthals battling Cro-Magnons, and that we finally developed out of Cro-Magnonhood and into different separate varieties of the human species into who we are today by a gradualism that came slow, and we barely survived these ice ages, and then we barely survived this Neolithic, pre-pottery Neolithic, and then post-pottery Neolithic. And then finally, one day in the 35th century BC, somebody just wakes up and tells everybody else in the world how to build cities, and all of a sudden urban planning, canal works, advanced mathematics, geomancy, hydromancy, all the sciences, everything just explodes onto the scene within 100 years. And we have the Sumerian civilization, the ancient Chinese Yangtze Valley, Urubamba Valley of South America, all the great river valleys, the Indus Valley, Mohenjo-Daro civilization of the Harappan Valley. It says we have the Nile Valley, the Melampides, the Egyptian, the two kingdoms. All this exploded at the same time. It wasn't one teaching another civilization. This knowledge was born simultaneously. And it's just the opposite of what we're told. It was not a slow development.
Do you want to help support Beyond Forbidden and receive extra content that's not seen anywhere else? By becoming a patron, a few things you will receive are the full-length 90-minute or 120-minute podcast episode. Members will also receive a private link to the video podcast and will only be exclusive to Patreon members. In-person, face-to-face interviews with some of the most well-known, respected researchers. Behind-the-scenes footage of interviews not seen anywhere else. And that's just a few perks. So what do you have to lose? Cut out one brain-rotting, overly processed Happy Meal a month that doesn't do anything beneficial for your mind, body, and spirit, and become a Patreon for just $5.
It was a very advanced culture living in a really pristine golden age period when something happened that was terrible. And after that, about 100 years after that, then civilizations began to wake up, but it was colonies of survivors. It was after this great worldwide destruction that we have Sumer and Elam and Akkad and Babylonia, Assyria. We have the Amuru, the Amorites. We have the Hittites. We have all the ancient Argos and the Achaeans, the Egyptians. It is after the cataclysm that the ancient world that we have come to know was born. But everything before the cataclysm has been suppressed. And this is what Archaix channel is about, showing you the original records and showing you that the education that you are given today does not comport with the books that were published 150, 250, 350, and 400 years ago. It is a totally different version of history. We are being forced fed a lie. And the compartmentalization of knowledge, this this weird apparatus that's been set up in our institutions to make sure that the geologist only studies rocks and the anthropologist only studies ancient humans and the botanist only studies plants and the astronomer only studies astronomy. This rigid compartmentalization has completely thwarted all multidisciplinary approaches to any knowledge of the ancient world. It is the reason why free thinkers like myself and others can put together a much more accurate version of the history of the world and cite sources than an academic or professional. It's because the new academia is not a part of intelligentsia. It is faith. They have been asked to have faith in a model that has been perpetuated for about 100 years now. They're not researching, they're not making conclusions, they're not doing deductive reasoning. They are accepting on faith that the textbooks are telling them the truth rather than checking the sources by which the textbooks were written.
Well said, Jason. So one thing I've noticed, when it comes to your research is your freaking passion, man. Even Helen Keller can see your passion and feel your love for the truth. I remember watching videos of you last summer in your office that had no air conditioning during the middle of the summer and then Texas heat, man,
my ass off. Yeah.
Sweating your ass off. And I can relate. Only reason why I'm wearing a hoodie because my office is cold as hell, man.
Right.
Like it's blowing right on top of me. We have a 6-month-old baby and she runs hot, so we got to try to keep the air down some. But anyways, man, when I saw you, Jason, sweating your ass off, you remind me, because we live here in the South, you remind me of a Southern gospel up there on the pulpit, just going at it, man. I'm like, this dude is on to something. Like, rather if you agree, people agree with you or not, you have to respect the passion and love that you have for this, man.
Yeah, history is my thing, and being able to show things from multiple different vantage points. It's a maxim on my channel that if anything is true, it can be shown from multiple different mathematical perspectives. So another maxim on my channel is if anything is true somewhere, then it's probably true everywhere. And by using these two maxims, we can basically decode the history of the world and make it make sense. And rather than all this crap, all this drivel that's been force fed us, all this pseudo histories and fake histories, this Hollywood version of history is completely untrue. And there are many authors who are capitalizing on that, making a lot of money perpetuating these deceptions. But yeah, in Archaix, it's chronology based. As you know, my entire channel is chronology based, and it is the one area of history that academia has totally ignored. They just totally ignored. There are chrono markers and thousands of texts, date stelae, monuments, cuneiform records. There's different archaeoastronomy alignments that basically give us the dates when things were built or destroyed. So chronography is an actual method of unifying all these different data sets, all from all over the world, different languages, different cultures, different time periods, and being able to put together a synthetic history out of all these variant pieces. And it's very easy, because what makes it easy is we have so many hundreds of texts from the ancient world that actually give us the times when certain things happen and certain events that are mentioned in multiple different civilizations, things that were seen in the sky, things that were experienced in the ocean, oceans slipping their basins, massive earthquakes, wars. These things are dated in many ancient texts using the calendars that civilization or culture employed. And when we basically take a culture or civilization's records and retranslate it into our modern AD BC system, it is amazing the cohesiveness we find. And this is what I did. Before I ever started my channel, I had already had over a dozen books published on chronology, showing the history of the world isn't anything that we've been told. And what got me published is the fact that every one of my books is just packed with source materials. I cannot not cite a source. To me, it would be a great offense to use material that actually furthered a cause such as knowledge and then not cite where that material came from. That to me, that is offensive. But so I cite the civilizations, time periods, the monuments. Sometimes I even give longitude and latitude where the monument can be found, what it says, what the scholars say the date is, Mayan date steels, Olmecan relief steels. All these things have dates and they tell us when certain events occurred. So I wrote a book called Chronicon. I've never had it published because it's a work in progress. It's already 550 pages long, and it literally has over 10,000 chrono markers. These are taken from all over the world, and I've essentially put together 7,000 years of human history using nothing but the chronological records that have been preserved until the present. And people would be surprised just how much we really have, and that the history of the world can be documented. But the biggest discovery, the one that led to Archaix itself, were the mathematical patterns that are embedded within this timeline. They are inexplicable. So far, my channel has been on YouTube for over 3 years, and I have made many challenges I have never been met. Not one person has ever come forward to ever attack the thesis. They only attack me because I have an extensive criminal history from when I was a teenager. I'll be 50 in about 2 days. But when I was 17 years old, I went to prison for some stuff I'm not proud of. But I got involved, and I was in the culture, and I did some real dumb shit. But a lot of 17-year-olds do. It was 33, 34 years ago, and I've moved on. But a lot of my trolls can't seem to let it go. But that's cool, because none of those channels have ever gotten any traction, and they've actually sent very high quality people to my channel.
Mhm.
Archaix attracts a more intelligent group of people, and they come and they assess the data and they realize, wow, there's really something to this, and they chase my source materials. And there are several websites that have been created just to fact check all my stuff, and I'm cool with that. I've invited that from the very beginning. So I have many challenges out to many different individuals, some just out to the general public. I invite the scrutiny, but you can't deny it when you see it. And this is why some of my videos are 2 and 3 hours long. I go deep into the chronology. You gotta have a calculator with you when you're listening to me sometimes. But I made it easy. As you know, I have hundreds and hundreds of charts that I've drawn, very meticulous charts, so you can follow these cycles and epicycles, and you can see that the history of the world has predictive value. It allows us to actually predict future events. And this would not be so if the world was actually natural. The conclusion of Archaix is that we live in a construct. Now, whether that is some type of God, mind, spiritual holography, I don't know. Or if it's technologically advanced and humans are on the outside watching us develop on the inside and figure these things out, I don't know. But if something is true somewhere, then it's probably true everywhere. And because we've become technologically advanced right now as you're listening to me, then it's a pretty safe bet. We've been technologically advanced in the past, and we could have even initiated the very simulation we're experiencing now.
And I've been, like I said, I came across your work maybe last May, June, something like that. I knew I was eventually going to get you on the show. I've been doing podcasts for years since, like I said, 2010. But I was like, man, I've got to get this guy on. So ever since then, man, I've been taking notes here and there. I may not be as in depth as some of your other subscribers on YouTube, but I know, about 2178. I know about 1902, the 138
Yeah.
years, 1940 or 2040. I know a pretty good bit, but but back to the notes. One thing that stuck out with me, I took I don't remember when I took it. I remember you saying, so I'm paraphrasing. I'm pretty sure you said it almost to the T. The more we analyze the past, the better we can solidify the future.
Yeah, no doubt. There's no doubt.
Like, that's powerful. You know what I mean? Like, it's very simple. It's simple,
Yeah,
but that's powerful though.
we're dealing with templates. We're not dealing with real history. We are dealing with templates of history. These are pieces of programming that have been injected into the construct to make us believe certain things. Now, this is where I don't want to get too complex and get into Heisenberg uncertainty principle and all that.
We're about to get complex here in a little bit. Just trying to be a little bit more layman's for maybe some of the
Well,
newcomers, and you've been doing a good job with that.
so
So
imagine that you're a spiritual being and that you have a real avatar, a real body that's very different than the one now, but it's on the outside of the construct. But because on the outside of the construct, you can't really grow because you can't experience pain. You can't really mature because you can't experience hardship and all the questions and responses that come with it. You've never experienced war. You don't know what hungry is. So this vast apparatus is created where something as simple as a central nervous system can be a bridge between the psyche and the simulation. And now an immortal being can be immersed into a medium that actually confuses it and makes it believe that it has to fear death because it cannot remember anything on the outside of the construct. The central nervous system is a filter and it blocks away all knowledge of anything outside of the construct and moors that immortal being into sense perceptions of sight, hearing, taste, touch, feel. These senses, the central nervous system is now the governor. This is described. This is a technological device, but it's so sophisticated it actually fuses together spirit and matter so that spirit can really experience these things in this controlled environment. And it's a construct for one reason, so that everything that's experienced in here, good and evil, disease, murder, war, old age, suicides, whatever happens inside the construct can never cross-contaminate the real universe. In the real universe, we're immortal beings, but immortal beings can't grow, not without experience. They can't mature without experience. So these constructs are built, and this isn't the only one. This is the central premise of Archaix, that the ancient religions are right, that this world is a type of programmed illusion. It's a Maya. The Aborigines of Australia were not wrong. It is the dream time. And the later, more sophisticated Gnostics, the pre-Christian Gnostics, they nailed it right. They borrowed most of their own faith from the Zoroastrian records of the Zendavesta. And it is the belief that we live in a construct of Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, and that we are trapped here for a certain period of time, but we're really in no danger. We just think we are. This is the central premise of Archaix, and this is what all my 480 videos basically teach, that the world is too chronologically perfect to be real. Therefore, it is programming. And if that can be shown, if I can convince thousands and thousands of people that the history of the world is a series of programmed templates that never really happened, and I have convinced them, if I can convince them that, then it's not a far leap to assume that the future is programmed as well. And if the future is programmed as well, that means we're in the present programming right now. And if everything is just pure programming, then the only thing really that's real are us. And once you make that mental switch, that's when you can start doing great things in your life. That's when you become the Neo of your own matrix. That's when the holography begins knitting circumstances for you that completely defy other people's explanations. They can't believe your life has changed so fundamentally and that you're experiencing all that. They don't get it because they're still moored to the collective. They're still interacting with the construct. But the person who is truly an awakened soul is a soul that the construct no longer governs over, because there's only two phases here. You're either going to be a receiver and you're going to reflect back what the construct projects, and you're going to live a reactive life and you're going to do everything everybody else is doing, or you're going to be a broadcaster. And if you're a broadcaster, you stand alone and the construct actually does your bidding, because you're you're doing something new. You're doing something that an immortal would do, not a slave. This is basically my message in Archaix, and in order to show this, I have to do it from multiple different perspectives, different time periods, employing different types of arithmetic and mathematic and now analogies and parables, and using different ancient texts to do it.
So let's go ahead and get a little bit deeper here. But you mentioned, because I got a lot of notes. Like I said, I've been taking notes kind of on and off since last summer. I knew I was eventually going to get you on, but
let's do it. I don't
so,
mind going deep.
So what you mentioned a while ago, you've done some stupid shit. We all have. You got locked up. Okay. So do you think that the simulacrum or whatever gave you a set of codes within the simulation when you were born, and these codes put you on a path where you did get locked up? Because if you didn't get locked up, Jason, you would have never went down this path of research as you did, exploring all these books and expanding your knowledge.
Oh, there's no doubt. There is absolutely no doubt, and I wouldn't take it back. I did 26 years in Texas prison. I wasn't sent to prison for that long. I was going to get out a lot earlier than that, but things being what they were, I did a lot of effing up in prison too, and I got involved in a lot of dumb shit. And I ended up getting another sentence while I was in prison. You just can't. It's hard to. You just can't throw a 17-year-old in an adult prison and think things aren't going to happen. So it did.
Things happen for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, yes. So if you had to go back, would you say, here's the thing. Here's that, I don't know, that dichotomy or whatever word you want to say. If you could go back, would you make all the decisions that you did? Because it put you in prison to make you where you are here.
Well, listen, I wouldn't.
You know what I mean?
I wouldn't change anything. If given the opportunity that I could go back to 17 years old, I would not change anything. I would go ahead and go through it again. And it's the benefit that I had is something that no one else can enjoy. There are very, very few people that can claim to have had the free time that I had. Let me explain. Right now, if you have a passion to know history, ancient history, if you have a passion like I do just to have a general knowledge of as many things as you can, you still have to drive to work, and that takes time. You still have to drive home. You have to run errands, stop at the gas station, buy groceries, sometimes raise a family. Kids take up a lot of time. Commuting from place to place to get things done and to run errands. You have social responsibilities. You have occupational responsibilities. You don't really have the free time you think you would to do this. This is why most people never really start enjoying life until their retirement, when they get to start doing the things that their work life and their married life had never allowed.
Retire and die 5 years later.
Yeah. So here I am.
Bullshit.
Yeah, so here I am in prison. I don't have to do any of those things. All I have to do is get up in the morning, make me a cup of coffee, put my little headphones on, little tiny transistor radio, open up a book, and have my tablet right there. And whatever I found interesting in these books, I just wrote them down. And I ended up doing that for years and writing tens of thousands of handwritten pages before I bought an old typewriter and I started typing it all up and organizing those notes. So it took about 20 years to read 1,300 nonfiction reference books. And I have the whole list on Podia. It's a free download. And I'm always encouraging people to, hey, man, you guys want to know? I got 2 downloads that are free to you. One of them is 1,300 books that I read while I was in prison. Title of the book, author, the publisher, date of publication. Another one is my picks. It's a PDF with 400 books, a list of 400 books, and the covers, what they look like. These are the 400 books by which I derived most of my education. So I have those PDFs; they're free on Podia. But this is what I did, and I had the free time to do it. And by the time I was released from prison, I already had 5 or 6 books published. But as soon as I got out, I got like 3 or 4 more published fast. And then I still have another 11 books that I published myself and put on Amazon and stuff. So it's I wouldn't take any of that back. The person I am today is a direct result of my past. And if it was a single incident that lasted a few hours at 17 years old, it changed the whole trajectory of my life. But 26 years later, I got out of prison at 43 years old with one of the greatest educations anybody in this world could have, because I wasn't force-fed by academia what to believe. I was exposed to all the materials, and I got to ascertain the facts. I got to really look at data points and data sets and be able to it became so easy to separate fact and fiction. I wasn't programmed of what to believe to receive a diploma. I came to my conclusions basically just by logic.
Yeah, and just like I told you before the show, and with my job, I had the benefit of wearing headphones. That's my hearing protection, the earmuffs, over the ear. And man, I listen all, which I didn't get to. I don't read. I have never read as many books or the older text that you have, but I get to listen to a bunch of podcasts, Audible books. I
Right.
love it, man. Like, just love it. I've been seeking, knowledge, truth. This is my passion on all alternative subjects since 2006. But so let's go to the Bible just for a second.
Sure.
I want to stay a little bit on the simulation. But and of course it's all like a spider's web. It all interconnects, and it's a jigsaw puzzle. But so with the King James Bible, chapter 14, verse 2 states, "In my Father's house are many mansions." Do you think that there is a connection with that verse to where many mansions could be actually many different simulations, dimensions, and or realities?
100%. I have always held that these constructs, which are the proper Latin is simulacrum, I call it simulacrum, and I really don't care about people correcting my pronunciation. It happens every single time I say it. But
You say simulacrum, right?
yeah, I say simulacrum, but that's
I
not
say the
really,
same thing. Is it just the South thing? I don't know.
it's South, man. It's South.
Anyways, go ahead, man.
Simulacrum don't even sound right to me, but that is the proper pronunciation. So anyway, it's we're not we're not dealing with a single construct. We're dealing with many constructs, and they may overlap each other. This all might be running simultaneously. And we do have evidence of like fossil programming, when unusual things appear in our construct that actually belong somewhere else. And then when they're properly investigated, they seem to vanish as if the construct was now aware, because attention was brought to it that this doesn't belong here, so it edits it out. And then the elite are blamed, and the Smithsonian Institution is blamed, and all these different factors are blamed for removing the material, when it was the construct itself that edited that data out because it didn't belong. I mean, the construct is not God. The construct is not all knowing, omniscient. It's just not. It is subject to the law of diminishing returns. It is subject to the law of conservation of energy, and as such, it has to maximize the use of its energy. And to do that, it creates paradigms. Paradigms are traps for the collective. These are nodes of thinking that require very minimal energy of the construct. If it can get as many people to be conservative Republicans, then so be it. So be it, because that whole group is easy to control with just a little bit of programming. If it can get another group to be socialist Democrats, so be it, because it's easy to control them with the information that's fed them in their paradigm. If it can get a bunch of people to be, a bunch of white people to be racist against black, then so be it. It's easy to control that and continually to nurture and foster that behavior with just a little bit of energy. It's called the media. So the same way,
where energy goes, attention flows.
Yes.
Or did I say it backwards? But
yeah,
where energy flows.
Yeah, energy flows where attention goes.
There it goes.
So this construct, it doesn't deal well with the free thinker. At first, it tries to corral them back into something, but most of the world, at least 90% of the world, are the collective. These are those who are phasing in the reactive mindset. These are those who always react to external stimuli. They are governed, controlled, and educated by mainstream media. These are the people who lack an empathy, they lack an intuition, and they lack an imagination. True spiritual people are the minority. These are those who are really excelling in one or all three of the spiritual qualities: imagination, intuition, and empathy. These are the free thinkers. These are the ones that go their own way, the true pilgrims and sojourners through this existence. These are the ones the construct tries to sequester because it doesn't need you contaminating the collective. It's already got them under control. It's already got very minimal amount of energy is expended to control paradigms when that programming is already fixed. What expends the most energy is trying to create new reality tunnels for errants, for those who go their own way, because now the construct has to build a whole world. No matter where you go, the construct has to build a world around you. And if it doesn't know exactly what's on your mind and you're doing your own thing, then it has to go into overdrive in processing power. It has to read your pheromone levels. It has to anticipate the trajectory of your actions. It has to measure the rhythm of your ways. It has to do all these things because the construct cannot read your mind. It can only read your emotions. Cannot read your mind. It does not know what you're thinking unless you're dumb and you talk to yourself and you inform it what you're thinking. But other than that, it has to expend a lot of energy to basically understand what you're trying to do in order to build that world for you. And this is why when people pattern break, if somebody has lived the same life for 7 years on out, I could have said 5 years or 10 years, but 7 years on out, and went to the same job, went to the same places, went to the same grocery store, had the same schedule, and was basically stuck in this, the construct is using almost no energy because it's already got all that in its programming. It doesn't have to create anything new, but slight little nuances and variables just to make it enough believable enough that one day is a little bit different than the next. But somebody who is broke pattern and just inexplicably all of a sudden went to a different grocery store, woke up at a different time, bought different stuff, all of a sudden the construct is going into overdrive, trying to corral that individual into something that it can process and understand. And this is why breaking pattern introduces new people to you, new situations to you, new advantages to you, new environments to you. Breaking pattern is the best thing an individual can do in their life when they're stuck.
So
When they're
breaking pattern is kind of like rewriting code.
Yes, breaking pattern is forcing the construct to create a new life and new variables in your life because it doesn't know what to do right now. You are being unpredictable, and unpredictable behavior costs it too much energy. Therefore, once it understands exactly what that soul wants, it begins to give that soul exactly that when they break pattern. But breaking pattern is the key, because if you don't break pattern, you're just a part of the collective.
So I guess I need to go ahead and state this kind of towards somewhat the beginning of this. For a lot of people that are kind of new to simulation, with what you call it simulacrum, but
It just
so
means it's a copy of something that is real.
we don't have any really a true reference. We say video game, computer simulation, but we really don't know. We know that this reality is bullshit and it's not what it truly seems to be.
Right, right. Simulation is merely a frame of reference, and it's a frame of reference from our own technologically advanced perspective. In ancient times, the Aborigines had a different frame of reference. They understood dreams. They would have never imagined a computer, so they wouldn't have known what a simulation was, but they knew what a dream was, so they called this the dream time. So the ancient Hindus, they didn't know what a computer was, but they knew this was like a spider's web. They called it the web of Maya. They knew this wasn't real. And Maya was illusion. But
Did some
yeah,
of them
this
know though, Jason? Because
again,
what did certain maybe factions back then possibly know what was actually going on? Because the the theory, of course, speculating, the Antikythera mechanism, they say is some type of computer related device.
It was that was 83 BC. That was only 2,000 years ago. It's nowhere near as far back as I was talking about 4,000 years. The Hindu Maya concept, but yeah, the Antikythera computer is amazing. It's differential geared mechanism that was so sophisticated 2,000 years ago that the technology required to even make it, all these differential gears that were super flat to calculate the positions of everything in the sky forward and backward in time, the technology required to even construct that was far more advanced than the object itself, and the object itself is pretty impressive. So yeah, I say this on my channel frequently, but you've heard me say it. It only takes us 200 years to go from horse and buggy to Hadron Collider. So you can imagine in 6,000 years of recorded human history, since we've had things written on tablets and monuments, we've probably been technologically advanced quite a few times, and the construct has reset us several times, and even gone as far as redacting and editing history so we don't find these things out.
So I meant to say this a while ago, especially to the newcomers that are not really familiar with the simulation, or they don't know what to think, so some may say that and you hear this a lot. I know you have. What hope do we have, and what's the point in living anymore? What's the point of all this if it's just a simulation? It's possible there is hope. Of course, I'm speculating, but if this is a simulation, Jason, maybe the point of all of this, and of course, it's just the reference point. Well, we don't know. It's something similar, or it's just a reference
I can
point.
definitely answer
But
that.
maybe the point of all this is to live, love, family, memories, explore, and so much more. While we may be stuck in what may be a simulation, maybe the only hope for future of all of us is to live the best life we can by writing the code, hence dropping seeds within the simulation. If we all constantly are writing code, rewriting code while we're here, maybe, just maybe, the future will be a better place for our grandchildren. Because if we are the co-creators or co-architects within the simulation, possibilities are endless. But the future depends on us right here, right now, to do the best we can and strive to be the best copy, the best version of us.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with most of that sentiment. It's on my own perspective is that we're living in two separate realities at the same time, and that we're not here to save the world. And this is the main problem that a lot of people have. A lot of people have come to the Archaix platform, and they have left because they just couldn't process that information, and they ended up coming back and then fully immersing themselves into the data, and they've become my most staunch supporters. They're in my chat all the time now. They'll tell you straight out in the chat that, hey man, I'm one of those that left. I left for months, but I couldn't stay away. I came back and actually gave it a try and understood. But it's like this, man. You are an immortal being. You have been put in a construct with other immortal beings, but it's almost like a free-for-all. The construct itself is not going to harm you or kill you. That's the illusion. The construct is going to make you better, stronger, smarter. You're the prodigal son. You're the one who rebelled, went your own way, spent your dad's money, did everything, and then decided to come back. And now you're flowing through a construct and you're learning all these things. You're doing something that those who blindly obeyed would never do because they never left. You fully immersed into this ride, and then you're benefiting from the maturity, benefiting from the growth, benefiting from the experiences. And while you're in your avatar, which is temporal, all the memories and experiences and growth that is accrued from all your other life sims is blocked from you. But when you are divorced from your central nervous system and you are completely separated, because it is the bridge between the psyche and the simulation, when you're divorced from the central nervous system of your present avatar, that is back when you are at one with all the memories and experiences from every other avatar you've ever lived. This construct doesn't need to be saved because it's only programming. It's not the real reality. You're from the real reality and you're going back to it. But while you're here to learn. And while you're here, you are existing in two entirely separate realities at the exact same time. One of them is the personal. And in the personal, you're an immortal being who's lost his way, but you still have the powers. You're still in a co-creator relationship with the construct. You can still build your reality, have freedoms, have all the things that you wish for the collective. But the truth is you're not here to save the world because the world is illusory. That's one reality that you're living in, but you can phase out of it. We all do. Because you can phase in and out of both realities, but you can't be in both of them at the exact same time. And the other reality is the collective programming. This is dungeon programming. This is the sheep. Dungeon programming and negative default programming involve this other reality where you are living in 100% reactive mode. No originality, no creativity. You're not even living, you're just existing. And you're obeying the protocols of the construct in the collective. You're experiencing nothing but polarities. It is basically identified for you, and you have chosen where you want to be on the religious spectrum, on the political spectrum, on the economic spectrum. These polarities have been identified and delineated for you, and you've chosen among them, and you're a part of that. And you're diehard U.S. patriot, and all you can think of is go America, and you hate Democrats and socialists. You're Republican conservative. That's the life you've chosen. Therefore, the construct feeds you more and more of that data. It becomes a feedback loop. If you're Hindu and all you can think about is the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata and the Puranic texts and the Tharva Veda, and you're reading all this material, this is what you've immersed in, and you're doing yoga and you take trips to India and go to these retreats and all that, this is what you've chosen. The construct feeds you more experiences and more people that are involved in that. It becomes a feedback loop for you, and it makes it easier for you to continue these activities. It's very hard to break away once you've accepted a polarity, once you have accepted a paradigm and you fully immersed in it. Two separate realities, you can phase back and forth. Unfortunately, the only people that ever phase back and forth are those who are either in the process of waking up or those who are already awake. And once you're already awake in the construct, that's the exodus key. The construct no longer wants you here. So the next time your avatar passes and dies, you will not be jacked into another central nervous system in an embryo of another avatar. Once you begin to wake up, the construct does not want you here. You got to go. You're going to make the exodus. You're going to get ejected. I don't believe in soul trap theory. I see absolutely no evidence of it. I've talked to a lot of people about it. I've been interviewed on channels about it, and it all sounds really good, but I don't see a shred of evidence of soul trap theory about going to the light, going to the light to danger. If you go to the light, you'll end up staying here. That those decisions are not made after death. The decisions of where you go are made while you're right here in your avatar. This supernatural trap that's waiting for you after your spirit leaves your body, and then the wrong decision puts you in the wrong place. None of that makes sense to me, because I believe in an oversoul. And I believe that these constructs obey protocols and rules from a loving oversoul, and that only a loving oversoul would ever even imagine these constructs, that all this could be contained in here, and we're not really experiencing it, and yet we believe we are, so we can reap the benefits. So when we exit the construct, we leave with the powers of acuity, the powers of perception, the powers of cognition, the powers of intuition, and the powers of empathy. And we gain these in here, and then we leave, even though it was all artificial, and we find out later it's all an illusion that we were living in. Yet when we were living it, the dangers felt real. Therefore, the rewards are real.
And for those that are in that process of waking up, but maybe it's not their time yet, maybe, and of course I'm speculating, but to the ones that go through these mental psychosis or they have suicidal thoughts, or they actually commit suicide. Maybe some of those are, I know it's a sensitive subject. I've lost people, especially
Hey,
some of my military buddies from
no
suicide, but
doubt, no doubt. I'm surrounded by military. I got a bunch of military buddies. I know exactly what you're talking about.
maybe do you think that they are possibly glitching out because they can't handle this and it's just not their time yet, or
Okay,
what? How
check
do you
this
go
out.
about that?
I'm gonna address suicide because it needs to be said. All right.
It's big in the military right now. You know, I
Yes, I
told
know.
you the email. I served 6 years and got a lot. I've had a couple of friends that committed suicide, and I know of a bunch of others that committed suicide also.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt it's a terrible thing, but I want to put some minds to rest because suicide is a personal decision, whatever that soul was going through. But when it comes to the central nervous system, this bridge between the psyche and the simulation, suicide is nothing but the exit of an avatar. The special significance that people have put on suicide, saying that, oh, it's an unforgivable sin. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't just pull the cord when you want to just because things are bad. Listen, these unimaginative, unspiritual individuals who are saying these things don't understand. Suicide is just an exit from the simulacrum, no different than a natural death. Than a natural somebody being murdered, somebody having a car accident, somebody dying by a bullet in warfare. They're all exits from the central nervous system. Every single one of these incidents are the same. It doesn't matter the method of death. There is a difference though, and I go into detail on two of my videos on my channel because it's a sensitive deal. But on my channel, I have two videos about the origin of demons and the origin of poltergeists, ghosts, specters, disembodied spirits. Because on the outside of the construct, we are still attached to our real avatars. But on the outside of the construct, if somebody was to unplug someone's avatar while their actual personality is still in the construct, then that personality would not be free to go into the next central nervous system when it's available. Now it's trapped. There is no bridge between the psyche and the simulation then. They are in the construct as a disembodied personality. And what do you think someone is going to act or feel like when they are trapped in the holography and they know they can't get out right now? They're going to get destitute. Then they're going to get very, very angry.
Mm-hmm.
Demon, yeah, poltergeist, ghosts, demons. These things, these experiences, they're always met with hostility and anger. These spirits are in a rage. Wouldn't you be in a rage if you were helpless experiencing this whole thing, which may only be 19 minutes long? This whole thing, we've lived 43 lives in 19 minutes because this is a time dilation. And we already know that time can be compressed because time is data. And we know that even in our technologically advanced civilization today, you can send me 5 movies all compressed into a Google zip file, and you can send them to me. And just because you compressed all that into a very short file and you send it to me in an email, and then on my end, I receive the zip file, which has all 5 long movies, and then turn around and I'll just reprocess it on my computer, unfold the zip, and all 5 movies are here. But we just compressed reality and then conveyed it. The exact same principle applies. The whole time we're here, it's no risk to our real bodies because we're only here for a very short period of time. To us, it feels like we're here for a very long time.
And maybe a lot of these people that are committing suicide, maybe, you know, a certain percentage of them, maybe they know that they know that they may not be truly awakened to this reality, but they know something's not right. They know that this isn't they know that this isn't the true base reality. They know that something's totally different. They know that this isn't the natural state.
Trauma is a part of this reality because trauma also heals. Trauma also teaches us things. And yes, if these things didn't exist in the construct, then the construct itself would not be believable. So there's going to be negative default programming. There's going to be programming here that is very convincing so much that even immortals become destitute and they off their avatars. No doubt. But my point is that even suicide inside the construct does not have the repercussions that people like to claim, because this is a construct.